Welcome to Harness Up with Haste Draft Horses and Mules, where we talk all things related to these magnificent animals. From their history and uses to training and care, we cover it all. Join us as we chat with experts and enthusiasts in the field, share stories and tips, and explore the world of draft horses and mules. Whether you're a seasoned owner or just curious about these gentle giants, this podcast is for you. So harness up and join Haste Draft Horses and Mules for some lively discussions about these God-given creatures.
Howdy everybody, Steven here with Harness Up Podcast. Thank you all for hopping on and listening again today. We sure appreciate you, and we couldn't do none of this without you. And today, I am super happy to have the one and only Mr. Eric Reed here with me in the studio. Eric, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, and I'm honored to be here.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you're here, man. What more could it be? I mean, we got the Kentucky Bourbon behind us. We're in Lexington, the horse capital of the world, and we're sitting here with the winning trainer of the 148th Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's a good day, and I'm glad to be here, and I see that bourbon. I just wonder how many of those bottles will be full when we leave.
That'd be bad.
Yeah.
I probably couldn't drive back to Casey County then.
I wouldn't make it back either.
Eric, you're from here in Lexington originally, right?
Yeah, born in Lexington. Grew up here till I was probably 15, and spent a lot of time between Lexington and Versailles where my grandfather lived. And then when I graduated high school a year early. I went to night school when I was 17 because you can get your trainer's license the day you turn 18. Okay. And my birthday's September, so I thought, why go senior year of school when I can be training horses? So
September what?
12th.
I'm the 13th.
Well, there you go. So, and Beth's is September 12th.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I graduated early and hit the road when I was 18.
But your dad was a huge into the horse racing as well. I mean, he was big into it.
He was, and that's the only reason I was in it.
It just you following into his footsteps.
Yeah, I grew up idolizing him, and he was the guru to me. And I always told everybody if I could be half the horseman he was, I'd be a great horseman. And I watched him, be so unselfish growing up, but not knowing it as a kid. And now as an adult, when I look back at the things that he turned away for me and my brother and my mother, he's a heck of a man. More of a man than he was, that I ever thought he was, is the best way to put it.
That's awesome. I'd love to meet him someday.
We can arrange it.
That'd be cool. That'd be real cool. I mean, winning the Kentucky Derby in 2022, 80-1, Rich Strike, that was a major accomplishment. I mean, how did you feel when that happened? What made you, I can't imagine what was going through your mind.
If I could bottle that up and sell it, I'd be a gazillionaire, not a billionaire. It's a feeling that I've tried to describe so many ways and so many times. And I just tell people it's going to be the happiest feeling that I'll ever have as far as horse racing goes. I was so stunned and shocked, and there's just not a word that really can describe how I felt. And I've tried to find one. You
had your dad right there beside of you too in the circle. That was pretty special.
Yeah, that really, once I got back on my feet and realized what had happened, because I kind of zoned out during the race. There was 180,000 people there, and a track announcer screaming the call of the race, and I never heard any of it. I never heard a sound. I never saw anything. I was watching my horse, and when I lost him in the turn, and then asked Ken Tyson, who's my best friend, I said, where is he? He said, you're fifth, down on the inside. He said, I think that's you. And then I saw those big red blinkers, with the R on them, so I knew it was him. And man, it's like the way the world left me. I was like, well, he's fifth, so nobody's going to pass him, because I knew he wasn't going to get tired. And I never heard another sound until right before the finish line, as he was getting ready to take the lead. That's when I call him KT, Ken Tyson. He started hollering, "Oh my God!" And he got louder. He said, "Oh my God," a little louder. And then the third time, it kind of snapped me out of this trance I was in, and I realized he just put a head in front. Of course, then one of my other buddies, they were all going crazy. He kind of pounded me on the back. I had a real bad back, and down I went. Didn't even see him cross the wire.
I guess, yeah. I mean, if I was in that position, I would. I guess when you're watching that race, it's the biggest stage in the history of any sport.
Yeah.
It's massive, and you're in your position as a trainer of this horse that's getting ready to win. Your mind is just totally. You don't care about nothing else there, but you zone out and zone in on that deal.
Yeah, there's a movie Kevin Costner did called For Love of the Game.
I've watched it.
He's a pitcher, and in that movie, he zones out. He'll say, start the mechanism, and the crowd goes silent. And that's how he was able to concentrate and pitch and do the things. And I didn't do that to myself, but it happened to me during the race. And I didn't know who finished second. We got to the press conference, and it was just, jubilation, celebrating, trophy lifting. I've got my father holding my belt and the state police running me all over the place. And I'm telling them, slow down, got my dad behind me. And we get to the press conference, and usually there's like 40 people in there. There was like over 200. They were lined up outside. People. It was a different derby just because of the story. Every derby's special, but it was just unbelievable. So it was chaos. They had to get police to get us through the mob to get to our seats at the press conference. And when we sat down, it hit me, and I got the sickest feeling in my stomach that I could have, because I knew the first question they were going to ask me was, what do you think about this horse or that horse and how they ran? I didn't know. And I was panicking because I didn't want to sound like, I didn't care about the race or anything else. But I looked in front of me, and there's this white piece of paper on the table, and it had a lot of writing on it. And I pulled it down, and it was the past performance. It had the order of finish. And I said, thank you, Lord.
Thank you for that paper.
It gave me a chance to know where everybody finished before I got asked.
That's unreal, man. I'd say, yeah, that day you didn't sleep that night probably when you went home.
No, after the Derby.
Yeah.
I got the press conference ended. I got back to the barn at 11 o'clock. And of course, everybody had been waiting on me, that worked for me and friends that had came up for the race. They were waiting on me to get to the barn. And so when I got there, they had 2 bottles of champagne. The horse was just finished up eating and tired. He was ready to go to sleep. And we had some drinks and hugs and kisses and took pictures. And I said, guys, I got to get back. So what I did, my dad and Tyson and I drove up together. And we drove back to his house and went in there. And it was got home right at 1 o'clock. And my son, who wasn't able to come to the Derby, he had driven down from Lafayette, Indiana, and he was there waiting on me with all his buddies. So now I got, I can't tell him I'm going to bed, Hunter. So, I hung out with him for half an hour, and he was crying, and just, it was really, really special time,
Oh, yeah.
And I said, boys, I got to go to bed. I got to get up at 4:30. I got to beat the press to the barn in the morning. I can't get there and have them waiting on me, So I took a half of an Ambien. Because I was so jacked up, I said, I'll never sleep. Took a half an Ambien, laid down, and I woke up. It was a little after 3. Don't know what woke me up, but I woke up. And I thought to myself, it was pitch black dark, not a sound anywhere. And I'm like, that was the craziest dream I've ever had in my life. And I sat up, because I was sleeping, on the couch. And I said, was that a dream? I'm being serious. I really thought I dreamed all that. And I got my telephone and I turned the flashlight on it, because when I got home, I took the saddle towel and hung it on the mantle, the saddle towel he wore in the race. So I said, well, if that saddle towel's on the mantle, it wasn't a dream. And I walked to the fireplace, and I was scared to flash it. And I did. And when I put that thing up there, it was. And I'm like, holy cow. And there wasn't any going back to sleep. And I just got a cup of coffee and drove on to Churchill.
It didn't hit you the next day then?
It didn't hit me for a couple of weeks, because the mob and the press and the media frenzy that happened was something you just have to talk to some of those people about what it was like, because they were lined up down the 1/4-mile road of Mercury for 8 days in a row until we would tell them to go home. And finally, after the 3rd day, my secretary Robin and Dick Cohen called, and they said, you can't sustain this. And they said, we're going to start setting appointments, and we're going to give you, X amount of time between them, because I was losing my voice. And so for 2 weeks, I never saw a YouTube video. I never saw a replay of the race. I didn't, because I wanted to give the press all the time they had coming to them. They deserved it. It was a super story. I knew it. And I just felt like, I'm going to give them everything I got. Anybody and everybody, I didn't care what network they were with nothing. I was going to let them hear the story. And I told Beth this quite a few times, but now I understand why when you go to a concert to see some of these bands from the 70s and 80s, how they play some of the old songs that you're there for, but play a lot of stuff you've never heard. Because after I told my story for about the 200th time, and I have to try to give that same emotion to each, person, it was really hard to do. And
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. So, but about 2 weeks into it, somebody came up to me and they said, "My God, the interview with your daughter Shelby is the greatest interview I've ever seen." And they said, "I don't think I've ever cried that hard in my life." And I said, "What interview with Shelby?" And they said, "You haven't seen it?" And I said, "I haven't seen anything, man." I said, "I haven't had time." And he played it for me. And I mean, I bawled. Tears just rolled down my face because I realized how important it really was. Because to me, I hadn't had time to take it in or celebrate it.
Wow.
I was still at work, with the media. And when I saw the emotions that she had, because they got her as she walked out on the track after the race, I hadn't even seen her yet. It was, like 30 seconds after he hit the wire.
Okay.
And it was, that's when I realized just what we had done.
Well, as a thoroughbred trainer, horse trainer from here in Lexington, I mean, the ultimate goal is to win the Derby for every trainer.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've completed your ultimate goal, or you still got more you want to do?
You're going to laugh, but it was never my goal. It
Really?
was so far out of reach. It is a goal. Don't get me wrong, but I never ever dreamed of that happening to me. And it was just one of those things where I'd never bought a horse thinking I was going to win the Derby with it. I'd never had a horse that I really thought about that with, because I was very comfortable in the position I was all my life. I worked so hard from 2 horses to get to where I was and to buy this beautiful place called Mercury. And I mean, I didn't think it could get any better. And the Derby was so out of reach that, being in all honesty, people would ask me, "You ever ran the Derby?" And I'd say, "Nope, and I never will."
That was your first Derby run.
First one.
Do you got more plans?
If I ever got another one, it would be something. Yeah, I would love to do it again. I understand what it's all about, and but what it does is it lets you feel that satisfaction that when you watch every year somebody win the Derby, and it doesn't matter if you're an attorney or a dentist or a doctor or a stockbroker, a baseball player, you want to be the best. Mm-hmm. And when you finally do something that way, you realize you are as good as the best, because you were able to accomplish it when you were given the chance. And it was just something I never thought I'd even have the chance for, let alone pull it off.
But you got the chance.
And we made good opportunity, because we didn't even get in it till the day before. And
I know.
For 2 weeks, I was down there training this horse, being made fun of. The media, trainers, what are you up here for, man? You're not getting in.
Let's talk about that, about Rich Strike. When did you start training him going into the Derby? Like, did you have him for several months before? Or?
I claimed him out of a race, which means we purchased him out of a race for $30,000 in September. And I ran him back for the first time in October at Keeneland. And that's when I knew. And it was so bizarre, because my father, who taught me everything, and I mean, if he said, "Do this," I would do it, never questioning, because I always thought he forgot more in his sleep than I knew. And I ran him at Keeneland. He ran third, and I called my dad. I said, "I think I got a Derby horse." And he said, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "This horse won by 16 lengths at Churchill. The farther the races, the better it is." And I said, "He's a big dummy. He doesn't know anything, and he's loaded with talent." I said, "If I'm ever going to have one, it's him." And he said, "You better run that horse by 50,000 claiming and hope you win a race for that guy." And I said, "Dad, I can't." He goes, "Well," he said, "you're a grown man." He said, "I'll never tell you what to do, but he said, I'm telling you right now," he said, "you need to change your way of thinking." And, I ran him back in a stakes race on Christmas Day, in fairgrounds, and thanks to the weather and me not really knowing what the rules were down there as far as training days, it was a complete disaster. And he ran against Epicenter, who was the Derby favorite.
Yeah, I remember him.
But he finished 5th that day. Very disappointing. But if it could have went wrong 2 days leading up to the race, it went wrong. And I knew it. But what I did see after the race was he wasn't afraid of the competition. His mind, he was very immature. But when the race was over, I don't know if the light came on or what happened, but he took off. He didn't quit. When the rider stood up, he kept running, and he ran right to epicenter and went bang. Wouldn't let him stop. So I saw that, and so did Sonny, the guy that rides him. And he said, if we can teach him, he said, I really think we have something. And came back. My father said, would you get that itch scratched? And I said, oh, no, I'm going to run him back in the stake in 30 days. I said, I got a chance to get some points for the Derby. And he said, Eric, what in the world has gotten into you? I mean, he really thought that he was not happy about it. And, each race he got better, and then he got the first point, and then he got 20 more points, and that's what got him in.
What did your dad say when you got the call to be in the Derby?
Well, he was very excited for me when I went up there a couple of weeks in advance. And like everyone else, he's like, what are you going up so early for? And I said, well, I might get in, probably won't get in. But I said, if I get the one opportunity of a lifetime and I don't prepare properly, and I stayed at home at Mercury and just trained him like normal, and I got a call the day or two before and said, hey, you're going to get in, and I'm not ready, I said I would never be able to live with myself.
So something told you had a feeling the whole time.
It's just the way I am. I'm a perfectionist about certain things. And, I felt I owed it to the horse. I owed it to the owner. I owed it to Sonny Leon, because they'd all gone along with my program, no matter how silly it sounded, all winter and spring. And we're within 2 weeks of getting there. And I just said, I'm going to go to Churchill and I'm going to prepare him. And if he gets in, I don't have any regrets. But if I don't, I'll never be able to go to sleep at night. And I took a lot of heat for 2 weeks.
I bet you did.
Yeah. But when I got the call, actually, I got a call at 8:45 saying I wasn't getting in. And my security guard that was assigned to us came, gave me a hug. She says, well, I'm so sorry. I was hoping you'd get in. I could stay another day or two. And she packed her stuff and left. So I knew at that point, we weren't getting in. And called my dad first. Said, didn't get in. He said, well, that's all right. He said, by golly, you went up there. And he said, you was 1 away from getting in. He said, come on home, get him ready for the next race. And I called a few other people, told the help, because, man, they were down. They were down. They were really, really wanted to get in the race. So, now I'm like in damage control. And I said, boys, look, we're going to crank him up. We'll go to New York next week. We'll show him if we'd have gotten the Derby, we'd have run well. I said, let's get him done up and get him home. I said, this isn't the end, this is the beginning. I said, we still got 2 other races we can run him in. And about, I think it was like 8:58. I looked down the phone, it was vibrating. And it said Churchill Downs. And I said, well, they're calling to tell me I didn't get in. Because I hadn't been told officially. The guy that told me was the state vet and the guy that was assigned to us. And when I answered the phone, the state steward, she goes, Eric, it's Barbara Borden. And I said, yeah. She didn't say Eric, because anytime she was in her official duty, she said, Eric Reed. She goes, Eric Reed, it's Barbara Borden. And I said, yeah. She goes, do you want to draw into the Kentucky Derby tomorrow? I couldn't even say yeah. I was so stunned, and I couldn't breathe. I was like trying to get it out. And finally I said, yeah. And turned around, everybody's looking at me. And I said, we're in. And man, it was just crazy. A friend of mine was there. She told me, she says, Eric, it looked like I was at a funeral, and 1 minute later I was at the biggest frat party in the world. She goes, that's how quick those emotions changed.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That is just so cool. This could be a movie.
Gonna be.
It is?
Well, we're in the development part right now with Peyton Manning in Omaha and Amazon Prime for a documentary and a full feature. You
hear that, folks? Stay tuned for that. That's going to be good.
It's Peyton's first full feature.
A lot of my viewers really love horses, of course. This is a horse podcast. So
good.
Let's talk about Rich Strike. Where's he at now? What's he doing?
Well, he was originally going to be retired to stud. Took him to a farm. Couldn't really get any action on him. So they put him back in some light training at the farm, and he's at Saratoga right now, and Bill Mott has him. And they're going to try, he hasn't run a year and a half. So it's kind of sketchy, but we just cross our fingers and hope that he comes back and he gets a chance.
So they're going to try to run him a few more times, maybe.
Going to try to.
Good.
Yeah.
How old is he now? 5?
He's 5. Yeah, it's a different scenario for him, but there's a lot of things that transpired, and we just keep our fingers crossed that he comes back and stays healthy.
Who was he out of?
He was by Keen Ice.
Okay, I remember that now.
Keen Ice. His daddy won the Travers Stakes.
That's cool, man. I know I love coming up here. This is my place to come to. I like going and visiting all the studs. Like I went and seen Pharaoh when he was up here, and Justified, California Chrome, and I love horse racing. I'm kind of addicted to it some, maybe.
I know that feeling.
I got Twin Spires on my phone. When I go home at night, I put it on TVG.
Oh, so you got it bad.
I got it bad.
Yeah,
I pay for the international package so I can get that racetrack television on my satellite.
I have it on my phone.
And I watch it. I love harness racing too. That's a big thing for me. I love it.
All right. Have you ever got to ride in the car that starts the standardbreds for the race?
I want to.
I can arrange that for you too.
That'd be fun.
Of all the things I've done to horses other than winning the Derby, that's probably the most thrilling and exciting thing I'd ever done. And I have a client that owns a bunch, and he talked me into going to the Red Mile, and he got it to where I could do that. And I was sitting there, and I didn't think it was going to be that big a deal. And as the horses started coming up and the bars went out, you're literally 10 feet from them. And you're looking them in the eye, and I mean their eyes do that, and their nostrils start flaring, and you can feel the energy and the intensity. But as a horseman, I see the determination, and I see, what these horses are bred to do, because they knew it was time to go. They weren't just messing around. They were 100% focused as you've ever seen anything. It was amazing.
That's unreal.
Yeah, we will definitely can get that.
I'd love to do that.
That's a given.
I love the Red Mile. I go all the time. I love it. I love going up there in that off-track betting room. I can have the best time there and not even watch a race. I love going talking to those old guys up there that study these horses and bet on these horses. They know their stuff.
Yeah, I learned most of my stuff from them old guys growing up as a young trainer, and I would pick everybody's brain. I mean, if they were grapes, I was making the best wine there was, because I would pick what they had to give me, and I would save it. And most of it got used throughout the years. And some of the things they tell me, I would just like, well, that's crazy. But 8-9 years later, I would remember this old guy telling me about something, and I would have a horse that needed some help, and it would work. So
that's good, man. Yeah. The old timers know best.
They didn't have the vets and the technology and the things that are out there today. They had to do it with horsemanship, and those were truly the good old days.
The technology of vets now is unreal.
Yeah, I mean, they got MRIs. They got all kind of things for horses now that 10 years ago they didn't have.
We had a horse 2 weeks ago. We was gone, out of town, delivering horses in Arkansas. Come back home. We couldn't find this horse, so we walked out in the field. The sucker run under something. He scalped himself. Like it took his whole top off. And I thought, oh my Lord, this is bad. I was puking. I went weak. I got that horse in the trailer. I called several vets, and they said, there ain't no hope. I mean, if his whole head scalped off, there ain't no hope. I said, there's got to be. So I called Park up here at Paris. It was on a Saturday night late. She said, bring him on now. I'll meet you there. I rushed that horse up there. Them two gals, I don't know how old they was young. They was under 30. Young vets. They come out there and looked at that horse, grabbed him, pulled him in there and said, we'll take care of him. I said, well, I'm going to go get something to eat and just let you all do it because I don't want to see it. I got a weak stomach.
Yeah.
They called me an hour later. Said, come get your boy.
No way.
I swear.
All right, what did they do?
They sewed it up.
You're kidding.
And I had the horses sold to a couple in Montana already. They already paid for them. So I called them out in Great Falls. Hello to y'all. Y'all know who you are if you're watching this. They know the whole deal. So, but I called them. I said, hey, I'm sorry, White scalped himself. I'm on the way to the vet. They said, well, you let us know how it is. They didn't. The nicest people you ever met. They didn't care. They was more worried about that horse. They sent me a picture 3 days ago. I'll put pictures in the video of this. You can't tell.
That's incredible. I've never seen a horse that had that happen to him.
I'll show you.
I was figuring they must have come up with some kind of a pack to put over it and
unreal.
Keep it. That's amazing.
Park Equine.
Yeah, I know them well. They do a great job.
They do. But like on the track, all these horses getting hurt and stuff. Could you imagine? I mean, back in the old days when this was happening too, same way, them old timers they had to know what they was doing to fix these horses.
Oh, I saw some remedies that if people, you told people you do it now, they turn you into the Humane Society thinking you were bad, but they were great. I mean, I watched so many different things growing up, and I've got a book that I keep of all the things that I've learned, just because I know I'm going to need them. And I've got 15, 20 pages maybe of little things that somebody had told me that I had tried that worked. And because you never know when you're not going to have a vet around, something's going to happen and it's the middle of the night, or you're out in the field, or some friend's going to call you to come to the farm, a horse is hurt, and you can help them. So
I wish I would have done that. You look back, like, so I'm 36-year old. I've learned so much from people like you, like yourself, old timers that's been in the business. If I would have just wrote it all down.
yeah,
I wish I would have so bad.
that's the way I've got my training chart from 1983 still, my first training chart, where I would write down if the track was sloppy, if the track was dry, if it was a rainy day, if it was a snowy day, because I would want to know if a horse had a good day or a bad day, was it weather related, and I've kept those, and I've gone back in that many times when I get a horse that's got a quirk to him that I can't remember, and it'll come to me, well, this horse used to do that, and I would go to my chart and look and see, and I would write little side notes of what we did to help him as far as training goes.
What was your first horse you got to train? I want to know that.
Natural Split. That was my first winner, and my grandfather had a friend in Versailles, and he knew I was going to be a trainer. And my dad gave me 2 horses for a guy named Jim Conway, who adored me growing up, and he was such a good man. And my dad, I came to work. I got my trainer's license on my the day. Well, it was the first Monday after my birthday. That was the day you go take them. And I passed it. And back then, Mr. Dangerfield was a steward. Nobody passed first time. It was just his rule. Didn't matter if you got them all right, he wasn't going to pass you. But he had known my father. And there was a trick question. So one of the guys that told me went in there and said, here's the answer to this trick question, because everybody gets it wrong. And it's if somebody sends you a horse for the first time, when he gets off the van, what do you do? Well, most people all say, I'll take his temperature, water him off slowly, check his legs out, take, just things like that. Mm-hmm. And he said, that's not the right answer. And I said, well, what are you supposed to do? He said, you're supposed to check and identify that they sent you the right horse. And he goes, it's a trick question. So when I was going through my trainer's test, the written part, I saw the question, so I put down, identify, they sent you the proper horse. So I go up in front of Mr. Dangerfield. I said, I'm finished. I handed my papers in, and he went through them, and he sat there a minute, and he says, well, I never pass anybody first time around. He said, I'm going to give you a golden opportunity. He said, and I'm not going to tell you why until afterwards. But he said, you can be the first one I ever pass if you answer this question right. And I'm like, okay, sure. He goes, you get one chance, and it's yes or no. He said, any other words involved, you're going home. I said, okay. He goes, you do understand, yes or no? I don't want to hear anything else. I said, yes, sir. He said, this question, he read it to me. It was the trick question. Somebody give you that answer before you came? And I said, yes, they did. He goes, okay, you're not a liar. He said, I'll pass you.
Did your dad give you that answer?
No, it was one of the other trainers out there that just, his son had taken a test maybe 6 months earlier. And, everybody out there wanted to help me, and they loved my father. I mean, my dad was a superstar around here. People adored him.
I've read up on a lot about him.
Yes. They just wanted me to do good for him. And they, I guess they thought a little bit of me too, but yeah, Mr. Dangerfield, he tested me, and he told me, he said, if you'd have said, no, he said, I'd have known you was a damn liar. And he said, I might not have passed you the next time. So, but I just answered the only way I could, because I figured he knew, or he wouldn't have asked me that.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a story right there in itself.
Oh, yeah. I was sweating bullets.
Oh, I'd say you was. 18
years old, buddy.
It was 18 when you started training?
Yes, sir. 18.
So you got how many years?
That was 1982. So what's that, 42 years right now? That's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do the same thing 7 days a week for 42 years.
And it is 7 days a week.
Yes, sir.
Do you keep horses at your farm now still?
I got 116 at Mercury. Yep.
Mercury's beautiful.
It is a gorgeous place. I'm proud of it.
How long have you owned it?
It's funny, I get asked that all the time. You think by now I'd look it up and confirm it. It's either 05 or 06 I bought it. And didn't want to buy it. It's another story in itself. But had a very nice client that had just come to me about 6 months before, a very wealthy guy that had beat cancer 2 or 3 times. One of the vets at Haggard's came over to me. I had like 85 horses in training. I had 20 at Keeneland, 65 at another place. And I was paying so much money in stall rent. Every day you got to pay like $8 per stall. And he says, I need you to take a ride with me. The vet did. So my owner, Joe, was with me, and we jumped in the car and we followed him, and he took me to what is Mercury now. Of course, then it wasn't. It was just a farm. And it was grown up. It looked like Hillenmeyer's was growing bull thistles. They were perfect height. They were all bloomed out purple. You couldn't see the rail of the racetrack. The barns, didn't have walls on them. It was an amazing thing. And I said, what we doing here? He goes, you buy this place. And he goes, you'll pay for it in about 5 years with what you're paying stall rent. He goes, and you can fix this up and make it your own. And I said, Dr. Hunt, I said, I thought we was friends. And he goes, that's why we're here. And I said, I'm debt free. My house is paid for. My cars are paid for. I said, there's no chance in the world I'd take something on like this because I don't have time to fix it up. And he said, well, I just wanted you to look at it. He said, I think you need to think it over. And I was real nice. I said, I will, but I said, I'm too old for this. And about 2 weeks later, Joe came to the farm. He said, can you ride down to Lexington with me? I said, sure. I thought we were going to lunch. And we pulled down to this big building downtown, and he took me upstairs, and it was Miller, Griffin, and Marks, the attorneys. And we walked in, and he said, I need you to sign a paper for me. I said, what have I done? And he goes, you haven't done anything. He said, I did. And he introduced me to the attorneys, and they said, Joe, we're going to recommend one more time that you don't do this. And I don't know what's going on. And I said, Joe, what am I here for? Is something happening that I need to know about in a negative way? Am I in trouble or something happening? He goes, no, Eric. He said, I realized that, you got a little nervous when we went out and looked at that farm a few weeks ago. And he says, but I see the potential in it, so I bought it. I said, oh my gosh, what are you going to do with it? He goes, that's what these papers are for. He said, I gave it to you. I said, what? He goes, I gave it to you. He goes, I paid $1 million for it. He goes, you got 5 years to pay me $1 million. I don't want $1 million and one. He goes, because I know what you'll do with it if you get it. And he said, it'll be the best thing you've ever done. He said, I'm a businessman and I know right from wrong. And I said, well, what if I don't do anything with it? He goes, then I'm going to sell it for about $1.5 million the day after the 5 years is up. And he guilted me into buying it, basically.
But it turned out good.
Oh my gosh, it's, he's passed away now, but there's not a day goes by when I pull into Mercury that I don't think about Joe and what he did for me, because he changed my life at that point.
Are you letting other people train there too now? Or
Never been a person trained there but me since I bought it.
You're just doing your own thing there.
Yeah.
You got your own track there then?
Yes.
How big is your track?
5 furlongs.
Okay.
Starting gate. It's got 3 barns, quite a few paddocks. We got an equine horse spa, that cold water therapy spa that Jerry Jam Gochin bought for us. So it's a nice setup, but it's a great place to train a horse.
How many people you got working there for you?
Oh my goodness. I would say anywhere from 30 to 40.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
You got to have 1, 2, 3 guys just mowing.
Yeah, I have 3 apartments that are out there that I built for people to stay, and I don't charge them rent, but that's their job. They have to mow, weed eat, help mend fence, and in the wintertime, help us clear the pathway to the track. So they get a great place to live rent free, but they do have to do a little afternoon work, and it's a great trade-off.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Because renting a place on a farm like that nowadays would be.
Oh yeah, and it, it gets me the right kind of help because they don't want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my help's been with me since I bought the place.
That's good.
Yeah, a lot of it's family out there now. They brought their families in.
Well, that's even better.
Yeah.
So you've got that going on, and how many horses do you have racing currently right now?
I would say we have probably a little over half the horses. So I would somewhere probably around 80, 85 that are racing. And the rest are, young horses that are about getting ready to run. A lot of young 2-year-olds. And of course, September's coming. We're going to get loaded up with yearlings again.
You going to the yearling sale this year?
I have to go every year. Sometimes I say have to because it's a lot of work.
I love going to the standardbred sale at the Faze in Tipton down there. That's my favorite week of the year.
Yeah.
I love watching them colts sell.
Yeah. I go, and the first 2 or 3 days is great, but after about the 8th day, 10-hour shifts, they all look alike. It's hard to stop and see the difference and really do your job properly.
But you're buying for other people a lot too.
Yeah, mostly, yeah.
They want to hire you as their trainer.
Yeah.
At post Derby, did a lot of trainer calls come in. I want you to train.
It was crazy, opportunities to go here and there, and I turned every one of them down gracefully because I was 56 years old. And I'd been there and done that. There was a time where I traveled New York, California, Kentucky for 2 years, had strings at all tracks, and was successful doing it, but it wasn't me. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big city guy. I don't mind, doing interviews and stuff, but it's just not me. I liked training horses. I had a great clientele that had been with me a long time, and I did take on a few local clients that came to me, but it's flavor of the month stuff. And, they'll send you horses probably that aren't up to par, but think because you won the Derby, you're going to make them up to par. And I knew usually that doesn't work out. So, but I turned down some really good offers, and I was very happy to get them and explain myself to them. They all understood. If I was 15 years younger, I would have jumped on it. But at 58, I got a life to live.
Yeah. You think you'll ever quit, though?
Yes.
You are going to retire?
I will, yes. Yeah, and it's coming up quick.
But you'll still watch horse racing?
I'll watch it. My daughter's involved in it. I'll probably stay involved with it that way and own a few, and my wife owns a couple, and my daughter owns one. So I'll probably stay in it at that capacity as a consultant, helping them. But my goal in life was to retire at 55. That's what I wanted to do. And in 2016, we had the barn fire, and it kind of screwed that plan up because I didn't want to go out that way. And I really thought that was how I was going to end up going out. And somehow or another, I got through it, and I kept going. And so the 55 thing went out the window because it took so long to get them going. And about the time I got 55, I was just rebuilding. And then, we had a lot of bad luck with family and friends dying. So we had to go through 3 years of that. And, you wake up every morning, you just wonder, when's it going to stop raining? Mm-hmm. And one day you got Rich Strike in the barn and it quit raining.
He was a Rich Strike.
He sure was. He was a gift from God. And I truly believe the gift was for a lot of people. But I've thought about it. I've talked with my wife about it in detail many, many times. And you can find a person that it helped and that it has meaning to, the story and why it happened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in my heart of hearts, I think this whole thing happened the way it did, with the story behind it, with the publicity it got, from my father and nobody else, because his childhood was so hard and his life was so bad. And it allowed him to talk about a subject that he hadn't talked to any of us, my mother, my brother, about. It was off limits. And when he did that Sports Illustrated interview, we about died because we had not heard any of it. And he decided to tell the story for the very first time. And the guy doing the interview had his player recording it. And when we were finished, there wasn't a dry in the room. And he said, I was recording that. He said, can I print any of this? And my dad looked at him and said, well, you dumb son of a bitch, what do you think I told you for? And he said, I've never told him. I did not know my grandmother's name until that day. I just knew his mother died when he was 6.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was just, didn't talk about what happened after that, because he had a horrendous life until he was 15 and met my mother. Lucky to be alive. And it was just something, if you said something about it, it was a problem. And we didn't.
He was born and raised here in Kentucky, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was born in Powell County. And his mother died when he was 6. They left him. Nobody took him home from the cemetery. Him and his brother and sister were left there, and somebody was leaving. I guess they were the last ones out, and they realized they were still standing at the grave site. So they went back and got him, took him to his aunt's house, and she kept him for a couple days. And of course, back then everybody was so poor. You know, it was 1952.
Well, Powell County's, that's rough country anyway.
Yes, and his aunt, he said he remembers saying, "I raised my kids, and by golly, JB, that was his father. He said he'll raise his." So she took him over to where they lived and dropped him off. Nobody was there. And she said, "Your daddy will be here later," and left. Well, for 3 days and 3 nights, his daddy never came, because his daddy never came back. And he was 6. He had a younger brother and a 2-year-old sister in diapers. So you can imagine 3 days, no electric, no running water. They were in that cabin, daylight and dark, baby screaming, crying, dirty diapers, you know, nothing to eat, nothing to drink. And he woke up and he realized, he told me, he said, I realized, well, he didn't tell me, he told us in the story, but he just said he realized that he had to go get some help. And the only person he knew could help him was Mammy, which was his grandmother. And his mother on Sundays would walk him to her house, and they would spend the day there, and then they'd walk back. And he thought he knew the way. So he left the cabin that morning, and he walked, and I mean literally up a mountain, crossed a mountain, and down a mountain. And I don't mean a hill. And he found his way. No trails, no roads, no fences. Just thought he could remember the way, and how he got there is another miracle from God himself. But he got there, and then they saved him until they couldn't feed him, and he ran away in the middle of the night. Another horrible thing happened to him, and he ran down the hill trying to save his life, and hid in the back of a chicken truck, which when he was back there covered up in the dark, it started up and drove off. He's 6 years, well, I think he's 9 years old at the time then. The truck drove for hours making stops, and he hid in the very back of it. Nobody knew he was in there. And finally, when it stopped, the sun was up, and he got out of the truck, climbed out of the back of the truck, and he was in for sales, but he didn't know where he was. And when he hopped out, Mac Miller, the Hall of Fame horse trainer, and the sheriff happened to be standing across the street when he climbed out the back, and he was burned where they throwed him in the fire. He rolled in the fire, and he had burns on his arm. And they saw that, and they came and got him, but he didn't know where he was from. He didn't know anything. He didn't really know his last name. He just told him his name, and his mother had died, and his daddy never come home, and he'd been living with families, and they had no idea where he came from. And, so he lived with many people in Versailles. He was known as a little homeless boy. And they wouldn't let him sleep in the house with their kids. He would sleep in the barns, in the haylofts with the help. The farm guys. And of course, as he got to be 12, 13, 14, they would beat him. And, he would leave, run away. They'd get him and take him to another farm. John Conley, the country music singer, his father raised him up for a year. He stayed with them. And, that's when he met my mother. And then his life took a turn for the better.
So kind of this horse racing, kind of a gift from God. They brought him out of Powell County to Versailles on a chicken truck, and
he stands on the platform holding the Derby winning trophy.
That's a heck of a story.
And that's why Peyton, when he read the article in Sports Illustrated, knew that this was a story he wanted to tell.
So your dad, that whole story is going to be in that movie?
That's what the movie's going to be about.
Oh, it's going to
start
be
with
good.
him and probably end with him. And of course, the horse winning is going to make people stand up and cheer. But I've thought about it many times. If you take me to watch a movie like that with that kind of story, and at the end they win the Kentucky Derby, you walk out thinking, it's Hollywood, man, that sucks. How can they screw that up? That's so impossible. The difference is it's true, and everybody knows it's true.
I knew your accent. You ain't got no Lexington accent. You kind of sound like...
I'm from New York, basically. I got that Brooklyn accent, and I can't help it.
I hear a little East Kentucky, and I hear a little bit of it now. I really
Just
do.
a wee bit.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of it.
That's why your dad is born and raised over there.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Where was your mother? Was your mother from here?
My mother was born, her dad was born here.
Okay.
his whole family. And he had moved to Michigan, doing some work up there with insurance, and he met his wife, and they got married and had my mother and her sister, and she was born in Michigan, and then they moved here when she was 4 years old.
Wow.
But they lived in Versailles their whole life.
Man, that's a story in itself, man.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal story about my dad. And I remember, Beth will remember well, but when we did the shooting for the documentary, I think a couple of days worth of footage, and we would stop every 10 or 15 minutes. They couldn't do it. They'd have to stop. They were crying. Even the people asked questions, they just, my dad would be sitting there, a million flashbacks coming to him, and he would start on this story and go to this one. It was all coming back so fast where he buried it. But we went through a couple of days of that, and we were wrapping things up, and the guy said, I want to ask you one more question. And he goes, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but he said, I'm going to ask it. And my dad said, go ahead. And before I tell you the question, I just want to tell you how brave my father is, because everybody loves their dad. And their dads are, especially boys.
Oh, yeah.
Your dad is just it. So I always thought my dad was tough and strong and been through a lot. I didn't know what he'd been through till this stuff. But, I watched him sit in front of, I don't know how many cameras were in that small building, and 3 or 4 different people, not counting the people, the cameras and the sound people outside watching on the computers and doing things. And he sat surrounded by that stuff and told 2 days of this life journey that he wouldn't tell his own family, to strangers. And I mean, it was the bravest thing I've seen anybody do in my life. And we got to the end of the filming, and the guy, he said, I want to ask you one more question. And my dad, he said, go ahead. And he said, if you could go back who you are right now and talk to the 9-year-old Herbert Reed, what would you tell him? Well, I thought, he doesn't understand that question. And he sat there and he teared up. When my dad gets nervous, he'll do this, and he'll clutch, and you can watch his fingertips turn white. And I saw him doing it, and I saw him kind of trembling. It gets a little emotional.
Yeah, I'd say it does.
But he looked at that camera and he said, I tell myself not to hate so much, that not everybody you run into is out to hurt you.
That's a huge statement.
Yeah. And boy, it just...
I bet it did. Man.
And I know that horse won, and the way we got in and all that, so he could be there to let him unleash this 70-some years that he's kept bottled up inside of him. And he finally let it out, and he's a changed man since he's told the story. And he'll say, if I had one kid that was like me, he said, then my life had meaning.
Rich Strike is a big part of your family now, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's changed it in so many ways.
That's unreal. A horse can do that, though.
Yeah, horses are beautiful, man. I mean, they're great animals. They'll lay their life down for you.
It's unreal.
You needed them throughout history.
Oh, yeah.
Not for racing. I mean, we wouldn't have conquered the West. We wouldn't have been able to do anything without horses.
If you think about it, no, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Everything started kind of with a horse.
Absolutely. I mean, they helped us plow the fields. They helped us go from town to town. They got the doctors to you. They were pets. They were parts of the family.
We still drive horses on the road every day. We train our draft horses on the highway.
That's amazing.
We do. We go to Liberty. We go to, where Somerset is?
Yes.
We drive down that 6-lane highway. Friday night, we hauled in there and parked at Lowe's and went and ate Longhorn Steakhouse with the team. Then we went down to Hobby Lobby and drove around and come back up and went to Walmart on team.
How cool. Yeah. I bet you have people taking pictures and watching all the time.
It's unreal.
That is awesome.
But we have a lot of things people don't understand. Like, you're on the highway with a horse. That horse has got the right of way. Horses was there before them cars.
So how do you train a horse to handle that?
We do it a little different than some people. I guess we're kind of crazy. We just do it. Like we had 2-year-olds on the highway all last week. 2-year-olds. We harness them up. We work them at home first. Groundwork, get them going. Where we trust them, they trust us. We go to the Ag Center at Liberty, where 127 runs down.
Mm-hmm.
And we just hook them in the wagon and go. And hope for the best.
Hope for the best. So you got big ones.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Like just 2 months ago, I'll go ahead and tell this. Everybody doesn't knows it. So we was going down the road on a big pair of gray perch mares. And we was heading south on 127. And cars flying this way, semis one after another. There was a line of traffic behind us all the way to McDonald's. But we was just going down the road, A transport company that transports handicapped elderly people in a Dodge minivan come to the right side of us in the ditch and passed us. No kidding.
You didn't try to chase him down and tell him that was wrong, did you?
Well, I didn't have to.
Oh.
We got such a major following on YouTube. I went home that night. It startled me. That guy, the driver, the company needed to know. I wanted them to know what he done. I called and told him. He said, well, no, that guy wouldn't have done that. I said, you want to see the video? He said, you got it on video? I said, yeah, I sure do. Had my GoPro right there videoing horses. I had it on video. I sent it to him. He called me back and he said, I am sorry. He said, I apologize for him. He said, I'm going to have to talk with him. That was wrong. Well, 3 weeks later, he called me back. He said, are you still mad at me? I thought we made up, He said, I'm getting calls. I've had 18 calls today from your whatever you do on the internet, people saying, just bashing me out for that. And it went on for like 3 weeks. Our YouTube following.
Good people.
They stepped in.
Good people.
Because
the
name was on the back of the van. They could Google it. Is in big white letters. He said, well, they're wearing me out. They're calling me all day, every day, just giving me down the road. And I said, okay. I said, no, I'm not mad at you. I said, we're good. I said, you apologize. He apologized. I said, I'll get on my YouTube live and tell them it's okay now. They don't have to call no more. So I done that. But we had a lot of support.
I imagine.
Eric, I sure appreciate you coming. This has meant the world to me, and I greatly appreciate you.
Well, like I said, I'm honored to be here, and it's been this hour flew by.
Oh yeah, this is probably the smoothest podcast I ever recorded.
Well, it's the smoothest one I've ever done.
It's pretty good.
I forgot we were doing one, to be honest with you. So
that happens, don't it?
Yeah.
Folks, get online and watch that race. If you're out there listening to this and you've not watched the Kentucky Derby or seen Eric's race, just go to YouTube and type in Kentucky Derby Rich Strike. You can watch the whole race, see all the post media and everything. Check it out. It's a story, and stay tuned for that movie coming out. That's going to be a good one. So, and if y'all need me for anything, you know how to get a hold of me. Call me on my cell phone, or our website is www.drafthorsesandsmulesforsale.com. And you got to spell out that and, not the and sign. Spell it out. Also, check out the YouTube channel, guys. All these podcasts go on the YouTube channel. The video does. Check it out. Just type in Haste Draft Horses and Mules in your search engine. And if you like what we're doing and you want to subscribe, I'd sure appreciate it. And if you don't like what we're doing, I understand. I appreciate you anyway for watching. But I thank each and every one of you so much. God bless you. Until the next one, we'll see you soon.
As another captivating episode of Harness Up with Haste Draft Horses and Mules draws to a close, we extend our sincere gratitude to our listeners for joining us on this enlightening journey. We hope today's discussions have deepened your appreciation and understanding of these magnificent creatures. Remember, the adventure continues beyond this podcast. Stay connected with us on social media and share your stories. For more information and to explore further, visit drafthorsesandsmulesforsale.com. Thank you for being part of our community. Until next time, keep harnessing your curiosity and passion for these God-given creatures. Farewell for now.